I first heard about Stoicism, I think, from a friend who at the time was reading a book called Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. And he said that that book was kind of changing his life. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it really, because it wasn't something I was aware of. So I took it in, but I didn't really investigate or look into it. But I think over time, I started recognizing, this phrase Stoicism in other places. I think, once you have something in your subconscious, it kind of stays with you and becomes more recognizable in other places. So probably on YouTube or something, I saw it pop up a few times. So I then delved a little bit deeper and, learned that it was a philosophy with principles about how you live your life. And I think I just started researching it a bit more, and I got really interested to know what it's about. Also, I love the fact that this was a philosophy that originated from ancient Greece. I love Greece and Greek heritage, and I'm really into classical art, especially. So this was naturally something that kind of took my interest, and I started looking into a lot more. And something I loved about Stoicism was that this isn't a faith, it's not a religion. It's a principle in terms of how to live a better life and how to appreciate life more. And that's something I was really drawn to. So as I researched more, I also researched into the origins of Stoicism and, some of the founding teachers. And I, learned of Marcus Aurelius as one of the greatest teachers and one of the greatest emperors of Rome. And I learned that he had teachings which have been now made up into a book called Meditations, which is one of my favorite books I've ever read so far. And I actually have the book here. It's actually quite worn, as you can see. I think no book should really be in pristine condition, because it means that it's not really lived, And I think this is the kind of book that's going to stay with me throughout life, because it has a lot of principles which you kind of just need to remind yourself of as you go through life. It's the kind of book that's timeless. Stoicism is a philosophy that is focused on self-discipline, resilience, and virtue. And I just want to discuss about some of the principles that have made the most impact in my life so far. The first is to control what you can and to accept what you can't. Stoicism teaches to control what you can in terms of things like your thoughts, your actions, and your choices, and to accept the things that you can't, which are things like people's choices or people's actions, things that you can't control. And just having that kind of perspective in life frees you off so much, because a lot of the time we focus our energy on things that we can't change. You spend your time overthinking about things there's nothing you could do about, and I'm so guilty of this. As an empath, I feel so deeply, and sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, honestly, because I just have such a heart for a lot of matters around the world, and in a sense it's a blessing, but also not, because it means that you have empathy, which is a great, it's a great virtue to have, but it often means that you kind of burden yourself with things that you can't control, and it's not great for your mental health, so I personally really resonate with this first principle, which is to control what you can and let go of what you can't. And since I've started trying to, implement that in my life, I've, had to accept that there are things that I can't control, and it's just how life is. And once I've been able to accept that, I've been able to just focus on the things that are within my control, which is stuff like, my choices, how I treat other people, my thoughts, and let go of anything that's outside of that. It makes life a lot more peaceful, trust me. And it doesn't mean that I don't still think about, things that I wish I could change, but it's just having to make that conscious decision to not let it rule my mind or burden me in the way that it used to. Because yeah, I am a massive empath, and it really used to cause me so much distress because I just kind of wanted to fix everything. And of course, as a human, you can't do that. So yeah, it really, really helps to learn to control what you can and let go of what you can't. And a quote from Marcus Aurelius says, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The second principle is living your life according to virtue. Now, the Stoics lived or strived to live a virtuous life, and there are 4 key virtues that are central to Stoicism. These are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom means seeing things clearly and making the right decision. Courage is acting rightly even in fear or difficulty. Justice is treating others fairly, doing the right thing. And temperance is self-control and moderation. I believe if one adheres to these 4 virtues, you will live a good life. But yeah, these 4 virtues are things that I aspire to live my life by. But I think it's not just limited to Stoicism. I think, these virtues are also found in other religions, in Christianity. But it's not even just in religion. I think it's just being a decent human being. If you are able to adhere to these virtues, it means that you're a considerate person. You're able to face adversity, but you're also able to have self-control in certain areas. So I think it's something that is a universal set of virtues in terms of how to live one's life, and I think it's something that we could all benefit in implementing in our lives. This next principle is based on a recurring phrase which is spoken about a lot in Stoicism, and it's called Memento Mori, which is a Latin phrase that translates to "remember you will die" or "remember you must die." And hearing it so much, through my readings, at first it was quite a lot to come to grips with, because hearing about death is not something that, one likes to think about or have on their mind. But I slowly understood the meaning behind it and recognized why recognizing that we will die is such an impactful thing to think about. Memento Mori is something that Stoics remind themselves often about, because it reminds them of how short life is and the importance to appreciate life, and in essence to live life to its fullest, because one day we will die, and it's all about living the fullest life and the most virtuous life as we can whilst we have it. And I think having the perspective of having that consciousness of the fleeting state of life really helps you live life to its fullest and not take life for granted, because as we all know, one day you could be here and the next day you could be gone, and no one knows what their timeline is like. So having that understanding that everything could end whenever, it really puts life into perspective and the urgency of living life to its fullest and in the best possible way that we can do. So in a sense, it is something we have to remind ourselves about, and not fearing death, but rather living life to the fullest it can be lived. Marcus Aurelius says, "You could leave right now, let that determine what you do, what you say, and what you think." And that's similar to a quote that I remember hearing from the Gladiator movie, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I believe it's when Maximus says, "What you do in this life will be echoed for eternity." And that really stuck with me, because it's really true. The impact you make in this life, it transcends just this life, is the impact that you will leave behind in this world and towards whatever comes next, so it's really important to think about that and to have that perspective. I think it really informs what we do in our day-to-day in this life. And Seneca also says, it's not that we have a short time to live, but we waste a lot of it. And that is true. When you think about how fleeting life is and how no one knows their timeline, you realize of how important it is to have a certain urgency with when we're doing things, and how much time we do waste, doing things that aren't of meaning, or just not appreciating life or living it to its fullest. And for me, that has really impacted me, because I think about how much time I do waste, doing things that aren't of meaning, or just taking life for granted, where I don't know, how long I have. I don't know how long anyone has. So for me, that gives me a certain urgency to do things that I want to in this life. I think like getting my message out there is really important, which is something I'm striving to do with my music, and I am doing with my music, and I'm doing with, hopefully this channel and other sources. I just really want to reach people. And I think for me, it's realizing that this is all greater than me, and realizing that this is not just about me, but about other people and about people to come, and leaving my mark and making an impact and saying what I needed to say. So that's, it's definitely made an impact in my life in terms of the urgency of life and how fleeting it is. Another principle is Amor, Fati, and that's Latin again, and it translates to love your fate. Stoics believe that rather than resisting your fate, it's important to embrace it and embrace everything that comes with it, the good and the bad. And that is important, to embrace everything that comes with life, both the good experiences, the bad. It's something I do often think about, the duality of life, and how just as we have good moments, there's also bad moments to come. And I think those also give life perspective, because if you don't have those bad moments, you can't appreciate the good times. And if you don't have the good times to balance out the bad, you don't have the perspective of either. So it's about making peace with your fate and accepting everything as it comes, both the good and the bad. Epictetus says, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to, rather wish for them to happen the way they are meant to happen. Then you will be happy. I think a lot of the time we want to be so in control of life and the direction our lives are going. We want to see like the end results, but sometimes you just need to trust the process. And when you trust that everything will work out in the end, sometimes the result that you do get is better than anything you would have anticipated. So it's about trusting the process and trusting that life will lead you where you are meant to be, and God, or whatever you believe in, the higher power, has a plan, and everything will work out in the way it's meant to be. And just letting go. And that's another thing, because when you do let go, you have more of a peace of mind. And although it can be difficult because you want to be so in control of everything, sometimes you just need to take a step back and just accept life to lead you where you are meant to be. Another principle of Stoicism is to practice self-discomfort. Stoics believe that, when you practice self-discomfort, it prepares you to face life's adversities. And this might be things like cold showers, it might be things like fasting, but these are different things for different people. And I think the principle is that when you do put yourself in, the discomfort, and you have to face things that might be outside of your comfort zone, it enables you to grow, and it enables you to learn things about yourself that you didn't know, or develop in certain areas. And like I've spoken about before, this might also be for someone who's maybe more introverted, putting yourself in a situation where you need to network with other people, or in a social gathering where you make the decision to put yourself out there more, or speak up in situations where you might just naturally remain silent. So these things might look different for other people, but it's in whichever aspect of your life where you feel like you are so living in your comfort zone, making that conscious effort to put yourself within that discomfort, and face whatever that discomfort is head on. Because essentially those experiences, although they're discomforting, they are the things that help you grow and give you more resilience So, when things come about in life, you have that character, you have that resilience to face whichever obstacles might, come your way. I think that's a great principle and a great practice to exercise in life. The last principle which I want to discuss is to focus on the present moment. Stoics believe that you should focus on the present and not worry about the future or what's to come. I think it's, important, to live in the present and to live in the moment and appreciate life, because, life moves fast, and if you don't take each moment in and appreciate everything in the present, it's so easy to miss that. And it links back to one of the first principles that I discussed, which is letting go of things that are outside of your control. Living in the moment means appreciating everything you have in the moment and what is within your control in the moment, and letting go of things that haven't even happened yet. And I think I read somewhere that, 80% of what we worry about hasn't even happened yet. And that is a lot of, worry that we place on ourselves. And if we really just appreciated the present and lived in the moment, we will have a lot more peace of mind and just appreciate life a lot more. So I think that's really important to remember, that you don't know what's coming in the future and you can't change the past. So there's no point in dwelling on it. The only thing that you have is the present. And appreciating that helps you live a better life and a more peaceful life as well. So Stoicism is all about mastering your mind, embracing fates, and living more virtuously. If you're able to live life with these principles in mind, you'll have more resilience in life and also a lot more peace. I think that's something I've really been experiencing. And even when I'm faced with situations now which my past self would have spiraled out of control or acted, abruptly, I take a step back and I think about these principles, and I think, how can I apply that in the present moment to whatever I'm faced with? And it has really helped change a lot of things in my life and just let go of a lot of things as well. So I hope this has been informative, and whatever journey you're on, I hope you find your answers. But thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.